Hey guys, in this video we will be covering two things. One, range of motion, and two, the difference between a high bar and a low bar squat. I'll start with the high bar and the low bar squat. This has to do with the positioning of the bar on your back. Front squats is a completely separate topic which we will cover in another video. So, say you figured out a way to put your hands on the bar. Say you tighten up your shoulder blades and put the bar on your back. Say you know not to set the bar on top of the spine. How low do you set it? Well, that depends on whether you want to do high bar or low bar. High bar would be just off the spine, not quite at the top of the trap, but more so on top of the scapula. Low bar, on the other hand, is a little lower than that. It feels like a lot lower, but it's a little lower than that. More so just in line with the scapula, even below it sometimes, more so sitting on the head of the rear delt or the back of your shoulder. Now, differences between the two, from a training and muscular activation point of view, the high bar position puts the bar further away from the center of gravity, so your hips, which are predominantly moving here and handling the bulk of the load. And by doing so, it forces you to engage your core more. So while it does work your legs, it places a greater emphasis on the core and stability. Low bar squatting, on the other hand, moves the bar closer to your center of gravity and allows you to handle a heavier load or a heavier weight, and therefore places more of an emphasis on the driving power from the legs and not as much in stabilizing in the core. While they do both, it is a bit of a sliding scale on the spectrum. Now, the next thing to talk about, as I said, is depth. A common question that gets asked is, how deep should you be going in a squat? Well, there is a right answer, and at the same time, there is no right answer. Yeah? The right answer would be for general population. Depth is defined as getting your hip crease to move below the top of your knee. Now, you can go deeper than that, and that is still depth, but general population you don't necessarily want to. All you want to do is get the hip crease below the knee. You don't want to stop higher than that. While you do have exercises, like box squats for example, that do promote a shorter range of motion. Now, where there is no right answer is simply because you have different sports with different periodizations that can use different aspects of the squat to help benefit the sport. So really, it depends on the context that you're using the squat in and what you want the outcome to be. For example, if you're doing something like CrossFit or Olympic lifting, you would want to go deeper than just getting the hip below the knee. That's just because the weight is on the floor. Typically, when you're moving it, you want to build up as much momentum as possible so that you can get a bigger pop from the hip to get the weight up to the shoulder or even overhead. Now, where you would use a shorter range of motion, say, is someone like a football player or a sprinter. As you start to head closer towards your races or your matches, you would want to focus more on that explosive power that comes from the top end of the squat, because when you run, your foot's not coming all the way up here. It's more so coming to about there, maybe just a little higher, but not quite. And that's where this jump capability comes from. Yeah? So in football, when you're jumping to get a header off the ball, or even at the start of a sprint, sprinters, if you take a look and analyze their body positions, more so like they're pushing the floor away from them instead of like a long distance runner who pulls the floor towards them. And so with that shortened range of motion, you can use a heavier load on the bar to help strengthen that top end. And because you're using that heavier load, you wouldn't necessarily be able to get as far down as possible. Or maybe you will, but you wouldn't be able to get it back up. Yeah?